for coming, everyone.
Hi everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Tuesday. Yeah. I'm one day ahead today. So today we're going to go over, I'm going to review Book Creator with you, which is a tool I've used both for myself and with my students. And then Julie is going to go ahead and talk about the use of Manifold. So in terms of Book Creator, and I just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. If you can see my screen, thumbs up. Awesome. So Book Creator is something that can be used simply or more complicated, and I will show you from the very, very simple to the more complicated in ways you can use it in a university classroom. I got into Book Creator at the suggestion of one of our educational technologists who was just playing around and said, "Hey, look, like this Book Creator has some potential." I am not an early adopter of tools, so I really like to play with the tool and figure it out and see if it's easy enough for my students to play with before I adopt it into my class. But this one seemed pretty like nice and easy and simple and something that I can adopt for my class. I am in the School of Education, so my class does train teachers, but I can see Book Creator and I'll give you other ways that Book Creator can be used besides within education. So in terms of Book Creator, I mean, it's fun for students, it's fun for instructors. You can go really simple like I did in this presentation, or you can go really advanced. If you have kids and they are at home learning, Book Creator is an awesome space for them as well. It's highly accessible. It's UDL friendly. There's lots of ways to insert images and photos and pictures and creative ways to use text. There's also an audiobook option where you can either record yourself reading or a digital person reads. And the way I used Book Creator is as a publishing platform for my students. So my students are teachers and they generally teach kids that have learning disabilities or behavior disorders. And so one of the very first ways I used Book Creator is to have some of my teachers create a high interest, low level book for their students. And then my students got really into it and decided to use it in their classrooms and use it in their college classrooms to present, and then use it outside to publish their own works. So I know everyone likes like examples of discussion board questions. So I'm just going to show you the way I used Book Creator. So in terms of Book Creator, I put it as a discussion board question. They had to sign in for a free Book Creator account. And I just had them create a 5 to 7 page, high interest, low level text. A lot of them just made it about themselves, some of them just made it about topics. And it was something that they could utilize in the classroom. And I think as professors, Book Creator is something that we can utilize just as a different way to create presentations. So, of course, we have Google Slides, and of course, we have all those different, PowerPoint, whatever you need. But Book Creator is a different way. There's a lot of different formats. There's a lot of things you can do with it. There's a lot of things to add, and it's really super simple. Again, I was initially attracted to it because of its great use in terms of accessibility. So it's highly accessible. So even if you, as a professor, have students with hearing impairments or visual impairments in your classroom, because the book can read to them, right? It's sort of like easy way captioning, and it's really nice that way. It was created by the dad of a child with dyslexia. So everything on Book Creator is very, very, again, like accessible for students with disabilities, really UDL friendly. So I just asked them how, to create a book. I asked them how they could use their book with their students and how else they utilize like technology and websites in terms of storytelling and publishing and book creating. So that was the discussion board piece I gave to my students. So in terms of the free version gives you one library with 40 books. So you could have classes create a book, or you can create 40 books, which I call presentations. It's super, super easy to just embed photos and video on Book Creator. It can be used again as an alternative to Google Slides or PowerPoint. You can also download these as an ebook. So I've made books for students to download as ebooks. And I'll give you an example of an education professor who has created an ebook for her students using Book Creator. And it's just something to get good at. Again, this is like my simplest presentation, right? I wanted you to go from the easy to the more complicated. And that's Nutkin. So I'm training a squirrel in my spare time to feed out of my hand, and he is almost there. So someday I'm going to write a book creator about Nutkin. But let me stop the share and I'm going to show you examples of the books because the books are really fun. So the first example that a student gave me, which I thought was a really cool way of having her introduce this book creator to her classroom, was she used it as a way to introduce herself to her class. So as you can see, she also created audio with it, which is so amazing. So she just like, you know,
meet Miss Janny.
And she created all these different, like, welcome to sixth grade. I'm Miss Janny. I'll be your new ELA teacher. And again, the images you can use on Book Creator, the different creative ways you can do are amazing. So she made a really great book for her middle schoolers. And then her middle schoolers made books to introduce themselves. So her text is really cute.
Before we start our school year, I hope we all agree it would be nice to know a little more about me. In college, I studied drama. I love to take the stage. Singing, dancing, acting have always been my fave.
And really, if you extend this, this is a new way to record lecture. Again, if you're sick of Google Slides, right? If you're sick of PowerPoint, this is a new way to record lecture that's really accessible. So she created a book all about her. It took her, she said, Gina, it took me 30 minutes. It wasn't like hard. It took me a half an hour. It was easy. And then she had her students create it. So that's an example of how one of my students created it. And I'm going to show you another example. Again, we're going to go from easy to more complicated to ways to use it in the college classroom. So this was a science teacher, and he did a How Was the Universe Created book. And it was all to simplify the Big Bang Theory for his students. I know a lot of times, like my teachers will do this when they don't know about a topic, they'll create books that are lower level to better understand it for themselves. And this helped themselves as well as their students. And again, super easy to insert images on Book Creator, probably even more easy than on Google Slides. And you can even insert a video. So this was just about how the universe expands, and he inserted a video from YouTube. So again, super easy, super fun, and it's really useful for my students. So a college professor then created this book creator, which I love, and something I want to do. So she did it for her class and she used it as a text, and you'll see that this one is more complicated. So can everyone see the 6 C's of education? Great. So again, I mean, this she has an index, you know, she has table of contents, she has links to everything. It's a really in-depth book. It has great images, fantastic links. She uses this for her college classroom. And she also utilizes Book Creator a lot. So this is on the Book Creator website. But again, it's a really nice way to create an easy text for you to utilize with your students. It's very easily accessible, and it offers that read along accessibility, which I think is so great, but especially because I'm a special educator. So again, I mean, you can really do a ton of things with Book Creator. Um, you can have students create a book independently. You can have students collaborate with you and create different sorts of books. And so really, really nice in terms of a collaborative tool, in terms of a new tool to use with your class. And my thing is that, like, is it easy, right? Is it easy for everyone to use? It has never given me an issue. It's highly accessible. I don't feel like I'm stressing students by either assigning something, or if I'm creating something, I don't feel like it's stressful for me. It's just a nice, easy, accessible tool. So I'll show you the website. And the website is really, really neat. So it's bookcreator.com. Of course, I lost my, here it is. And again, I would like, I think people get scared off by like pricing and things, but just sign up for the free account. And it's enough to really try this space. So I love the resource tab. The resource tab is amazing. There's ways to, they have a lot of like instructional videos on it. You can see student examples of things they've made. But again, if I were to go right into the resources, I'd go right into those resources. There's tons of resources for remote learning, tons of different ideas of ways to use Book Creator within the classroom, and even within the college classroom. So right now I'm creating a lot of things for my assessment class. And again, I just want something quick and easy for my students to access. And I'm doing it on Book Creator, and I'm really happy with how it's coming out. So it's not ready yet. As soon as it is ready, I'll send it as a tool. But really, really awesome website, really, really great way to, again, publish material and have fun with it. And that's my real factor. Like, it's fun, it's easy, it's accessible. So I think I'm just going to open it up for questions if you have questions on Book Creator. Otherwise, we're going to go to Manifold and Julie. Okay. Julie, you're up.
All right, thank you, Gina. I was very curious to see about learn a little bit more about Book Creator. It looks awesome, and I when I read Gina's blurb describing this as a topic, I thought this would pair really well with Manifold, which does very similar things. So I'm now going to share my screen, and hopefully you should see all the tabs I have lined up. All right. And so I wanted just to briefly talk about what Manifold is, tell you a little bit about how I used it, how other instructors and students throughout CUNY have used it, and then just point you towards some resources that are available. So on the homepage of Manifold, you see this beautiful and very apt description of Manifold. It is an intuitive, collaborative, open source platform for scholarly publishing. And I really want to highlight the intuitive part. I thought it was very straightforward to work with Manifold. I love how collaborative it could be. It is also something you could use for collaborative writing and reading. So that's, I very much liked. And it was initially created for scholarly publishing through a collaboration between CUNY and the University of Minnesota. But we have our own CUNY installation that allows everybody at CUNY to create projects and also create custom classroom texts of the works you want to be reading in class. One thing really drew me to Manifolds from the beginning was that it looks so nice. And so I teach literature and language, and in literature often texts are available as a free version in ebook through a variety of websites, but it just really looks like something you downloaded from the web. And so the nice thing about Manifold to me was that you could really have an edition of whatever text you're reading in your class that is free. but also that looks really nice. And it works well on your laptop, on your computer, on your tablet, and even on your phone. Okay, so that really, like, that sold me. So it's been used throughout the CUNY community to really publish scholarly work, textbooks, monographs. It's been used to create OER, open educational resources, as just editions that students can read and download, or also editions that students can read together and annotate. And one thing that really drew me into using Manifold was I was teaching an author that is in the public domain. If you do medieval and Renaissance authors, you have no copyright issues. And so I was teaching Petrarch, and I selected some poems that I wanted to discuss in class. And I really liked Manifold because when I teach this text, and it's often just like 14 lines of poetry, I bring in all these additional resources. And those were links that normally just lived in Blackboard or in a PowerPoint. Let's say an audio recording so that students could listen to the Italian, or some images, or a scholarly article about that particular poem. And it is possible to enrich your Manifold editions with all these resources. So you can kind of have the text together with all these resources. So this is my selections from Petrarch's Canzoniere. And so you would see, if you want start reading, so again, this is this beautiful style sheet they have. So you have a little table of contents, and let me just go to the one poem that is most has the most resources. So you have some audio embedded, and then you have some annotating by me and by the students. And so when I used this a couple of years ago, all annotations were still public. But in the meantime, it is now possible to have a public edition of your text and then have the comments to be only visible to your students or to a group of students. That means, like, you can create an edition for one course and you have 2 sessions, and you can have 2 sessions annotate, or you say, well, Petrarch, I'm teaching you in 3 years again. You have your edition ready to go, and you don't see those comments from previous classes. And so what you will see then, so you could see, I click here and a student wrote a little comment. And so this is now public just because those groups didn't exist yet. So I really liked working with it. Let me just, everything is moving here. Let me just close that. Because I could also really create, if I go back to my homepage, then a bunch of resources for the students, all the audio recordings together, all the images together. So a lot of these beautiful additional materials that I shared with students in class now live together with the text. And so that for me was a big selling point, in addition to the opportunity to read together. So I think this is a good moment to talk about, before everybody gets too excited about Manifold, that there is like one big caveat. And so you're really publishing with Manifold. And that means that your copyright clearance needs to be there. Okay, so a text needs to be in the public domain, or it needs to be something that you can actually share. So if you want to read and annotate something with your class that is protected by copyright, or a scholarly article, Manifold is not your solution. Hypothesis is what you want to use, because that you can just lay over and you can do private in hidden behind the protective shield of Blackboard. Okay, so so this is how I use it in my class. There's Paul Hebert, who's an PhD candidate in English and teaches at Queen's, has created this whole library of American literature. So these are just like these EPUB books you find, like plain text, and he just added this beautiful style sheet, and these are like additions for CUNY students, and then you can reuse them and again have those annotations visible to only the class you're teaching. So that's a great application. And now there's another use of Manifold has like emerged in the past years. So not only instructors providing editions, like very attractive and enriched editions of the text they're reading in class, but they have also seen it as a way of a way for students to publish some of their writing. And so I just want to highlight two of those examples. So the first is a professor, let me just again move this a little bit, Justin Ho-Blau, who teaches at Lehman College. And so the students wrote the essays, and so this is all under their copyright. And so they collected them in this beautiful collection and an anthology that you can read online, but you can also download as a PDF. So this is like the students were working with this instructor in class, and then at the end, this resulted in this publication. Another example that I found on Manifold is by an instructor in Brooklyn College, Marianne Madore, who was so impressed by her students' response papers that they actually made they made it a Manifold publication. And so each student submitted one of their papers, and you can their structure around the theorists and feminist thinkers they were reading in class. So you see, like, this is something that you could use if you have a text that is available in the public domain to really create this multimodal edition of the text, to do collaborative writing, or even to have a final project where students work together as a class or in groups. And at the end, I'll pass on the word to Jeff, whose students have created also an edition on Manifold, and we'll hear a little bit about that experience. I'll make these links available later, but if you just want to learn about how you can share materials, you just want to make sure that it's under the right license. And then, like, another reason that I was really drawn to using Manifold is the same that Gina was highlighting. You want things to be easy, right? And you want there to be a lot of help available. And Manifold like hit all the boxes. And so what you're seeing right here is me having logged in. And so I'm in editor mode. So you see I created 2 projects. And basically that edition of Patrax Canzoniere on the backend are just Google Docs. So there's just links to Google Docs, and you can insert Word files, you can insert an ebook you download from the internet. You can't use a PDF, but there are like a variety of ways, and you can upload your text. And then the other thing that is great about Manifold is that there are guides available, and there are people available who will really, if you want, hold your hand. And I thought so that the support that was available when I created my Manifold edition was just amazing. And so I think that's another good reason. If something is not working, there's a lot of documentation available online. And also you have, I had 2 people I could reach out directly from the Manifold team who helped me out if there was any issues. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and just ask if Jeff wants to share a few words about how he used Manifold in his